William Rentier. William inherited the responsibilities of his father and became the sixth director of the Rentier Institute. He inspired his troops in a way his father never did. They followed not out of duty, but because they believed in him. They trusted him. He worked tirelessly and took his responsibilities with utmost seriousness. Once an accomplished field agent, a wound he suffered during the Civil War forced Williams behind a desk. He walks with a limp, no longer has the physical stamina required for field work. He sees the Rentier Institute as a modern-day round table and his agents as his knights. He has inculcated his son with these beliefs, teaching him that they are in a holy war with the unholy. In service of this, William created the Gauntlet, a weapon of great power that can destroy vampiric glamour. Scott Bloom. Scott Bloom is an expert on odd monsters and rarities. He hails from a wealthy New England family that lost its fortune due to eccentricities of Scott's father, a demented and obsessive dabbler in the occult. After being tragically orphaned by a mysterious accident, Bloom grew up alone in a haunted manor house, surrounded by nothing but his father's books on the occult. When RI came to investigate Bloom Manor, they found young Bloom and discovered his unmatched expertise in the history of the occult. They drafted him into the Institute, and eventually he found himself assigned to Calico Outpost, where he investigated the ancient preternatural creatures of the Great Plains and the American West. Amelia Blackwell. Amelia F. Blackwell received her MD from the Women's Medical College in Pennsylvania in 1879. That degree, combined with her expertise in botany, guaranteed her post with the Rentier Institute. She proved herself during the so-called walking coffins incident in Baltimore, where she not only treated agents for their wounds, but worked as a pathologist to suss out the mystery behind the matter. She became the RI's first female medical researcher and soon joined a team investigating the medical properties of Orchid de la Vida, found near Lake Maurepas. Eric Brooks, the leader of the research effort, asked William Rentier to reassign Amelia to Calico, as he didn't feel she was a team player. She accepted her assignment to that distant outpost and in turn turned Calico into the Institute's most successful operations. Virgil Olney. I think we've already read that one. James Harrow. During the war between the states, Harrow fought for the 5th Vermont Infantry and rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel. He led the famous Vermont Brigade in the Battle of Gettysburg. After the war, he went on into politics. He was elected a mayor of Burlington in early 1870s and eventually became a state senator. He later served as Vermont's Attorney General. After one term as U.S. Senator, President Grover Cleveland made Harrow his Assistant Secretary of War. In that position, his responsibilities included the supervision of the Rentier Institute and any national threat related to the preternatural. Felicity DeBono. As an orphan child, Felicity experienced the worst life had to offer. Beaten, scorned, abused, and starved, she was tormented daily by those who had more. Peter DeBono found her living in the streets of Kingston. Because she reminded him of his long-lost daughter, he gave her the gift of eternal life. She's now a powerful vampire and DeBono's ward and protege. As a result, of what she experienced as a child, she sees human world as corrupt. Like DeBono, she firmly believes that war between vampires and humans is inevitable and that vampires must prevail. Peter DeBono. As a human, Peter DeBono was a philosopher who dabbled in the dark arts. The Sanguisuge saw his talent and offered him power and immortality. He didn't accept out of greed or the promise of a better life, but because this change would aid his ambitious quest for true wisdom. However, once he accepted the blood, Peter found himself part of a royal family, something he never experienced before. Over time, he saw that humans were growing stronger with their science and technology, and soon would eclipse the Sanguisuge and relegate them to a footnote in history. He decided to act and started performing experiments. He used modern science to breed new mutations and create an army of foul bloods easily manipulated by the vampire masters. Each of these monsters are horribly disfigured nightmares created by DeBono's accelerated process of transformation. Infected Waster. The tentacled heads of these mutations are filled with caustic liquids. When in danger, their body temperatures rise until they explode. That's why the agents call them tickers or time bombs. The original idea was this obscene creation was the original idea was this obscene creation would spread their vampiric infection far and wide, but the compound can't survive the extreme temperatures produced by this terrifying creature. Infected Proteus. There's no academic consensus among RI scientists as to how or why the Proteus grows a toxic, parasitic worm in its guts. It expels these worms as a defense mechanism and they explode on impact. Some suspect that certain vampiric genetic traits mingle with intestinal bacteria to birth this new creature. Others believe that vampire blood carries microscopic parasites that grow into larvae once fed by the host body. Though Proteus are not particularly bright, they are extremely dangerous and unpredictable in a fight. Leecher. Sanguisudes transport their transformative vampiric elixir in giant leeches. These massive invertebrates keep the quality and purity of the blood intact. To grow such large leeches, they must fatten up their victims and then use them as blood banks. Occasionally, the leeches' bodily fluids mix with the blood of their victims and create a creature called the Leecher. Of course, it's massive, and though not technically a vampire, it does possess superhuman strength and agility. Vampire Highborn. Highborns are the strongest and most powerful of all Sanguisude species. They are of pure blood descendants of the original Sanguisude. They are extremely intelligent, dangerous, cunning, and physically imposing. They can easily ensnare humans using either the strength of their bodies or the power of their minds. Thanks to a blood bond, they can communicate telepathically and use their ability to control their victims as well as their furry helpers, bats or wolves. Considering how many of those we've killed recently, I wouldn't say they're the top of the food chain, but I digress. Go-Ro. This truly despicable creature is created in mass graves where the blood of many mingle with the soil. Go-Ros are born blind and for the first few weeks feast on the rotting flesh piled atop them. As the blood soaks into the soil, the Go-Ro digs deeper in search of sustenance. Once below the ground, the Go-Ro hides in darkness, sheltering itself from the sun and unsuspecting eyes of travelers. You'll feel the Go-Ro before you see it. Just wait for the tremors. Kind of like a giant mutated mole. Stalker. Stalkers were engineered by the Sanguisudes to track down specific targets. Little is known about their biology as live one has yet to be caught or dissected. The theory is that the result of the symbiotic relationship between animal and arachnid. One thing is for sure, stalkers don't eat their prey, but rather trap it and deliver it to whoever sent it after its target. Interesting. The Parasiter. The Parasiter is a giant leech-like monster that feeds on the blood of the Mikanak. At birth, it's a container for the beast's sacred blood, but over time it mutates, incorporating parts of its host's carcass until it grows into its evolved parasitic form. We've read all these, and that's it for this lore video. Thank you for joining me.